Chapter 1. Ashley Carlton wasn't in a very good mood. She tried to act as if nothing was wrong, but on the inside she was seething. 2 months ago her mother, Olivia, had remarried. This wasn't what was bothering the attractive 17-year-old auburn-haired girl. She was pleased that her mother had finally gotten married again. Her birth father had divorced her mother when she was 3. He had stopped sending his child support checks 5 years later, and as far as Ashley is concerned, he didn't even exist. Her stepfather, Ethan, was very nice. Like her mom, he was a veterinarian. Mom specialized in dogs, cats, and other small animals, while he treated farm animals. They had met at a conference and had immediately hit it off. After 3 months of dating, they got married at a small civil service. After the marriage, Ashley and her mom moved to a rural area. Ethan's practice was located in Bucks County. Ashley and her mom had been living in Philadelphia, but this wasn't what was bothering Ashley either. She figured that she could always adjust to living in the country. Olivia had worked at a large clinic in the city, and while she was reluctant to give up some of her regular customers, she was excited at the prospect of becoming a partner with Ethan. She was fast establishing an excellent reputation in the area, and her client list was growing quickly. In fact, business was so good that Ethan and Olivia were looking at building an addition to his facilities. Their new home was on a large piece of land. It was a large, beautiful new house. There were woods bordering the backyard, and a creek ran along the edge of their property. It was a really nice place to live. No, what was bothering her was her new stepbrother. Tommy, who was also 17, although he was 10 months younger than her, was her new brother, and she disliked him from the start. First off, since they were the same age, this meant that they would be in the same high school class. It was bad enough that she had to live in the same house with him, but she would be around him at school too. Ashley had a very shapely body and liked to dress in sophisticated style. She took great pride in her fashion sense and liked to wear clothes that complemented her body. She immediately noticed that Tommy was always staring at her. Okay, he really wasn't her brother, so it wasn't like incest or anything like that, but there was no way that she would ever date a boy like Tommy. And to have him always staring at her was really bothering her. It wasn't like he was disgusting or anything like that. He was kinda quiet and reserved. Maybe it was because he was on the small size. In fact, Ashley was slightly taller than him. But it creeped her out how he was always looking at her, almost as if he was studying her. At first, she thought it was her imagination. She would look over her shoulder quickly and catch him looking at her. He would immediately turn away as soon as she caught him. What a jerk, she thought. They also didn't seem to have anything in common. She couldn't remember having a meaningful conversation with Tommy. She originally figured she could deal with it until she graduated high school, but then she discovered that he had been going into her room. At first she wasn't sure that it was him. She did have a sloppy side, and her room wasn't always the neatest. This was one of the contradictions in her life. She would never go out dressed in a slovenly manner, but she sometimes let her room get out of control. Often it was because she would try on several outfits before heading out, often discarding items on the floor. Later, she would pick them up. Still, she began to notice that someone was moving things around in her room. Initially, she thought it was just her imagination, but then she decided to set a trap. She left one of her new sweaters partially covered by her jean jacket. Later, she found the sweater was on top on the jacket. The question was now, what should she do? A normal girl would just go to her parents and have them yell at Tommy, but Ashley wasn't exactly normal. She had discovered a few years ago that she had powers, magical powers. Chapter 2. It had all started when she was 12 and was exploring a used bookstore with her mom. Ashley loved searching for books on the occult and magic. Sometimes she found books that were fun to read. They often had spells in them, but Ashley always assumed that they were just composed by the book's authors. It was then she found the strange leather-bound text. The book was very old and had notes written in the margins that had dates going back to 1807. Ashley was immediately intrigued with the book and asked her mom if she could buy it. Her mom agreed, as long as the book wasn't too expensive. To Ashley's surprise, the owner of the store sold it to her for only $20. Ashley was sure the book was worth far more than that, but she didn't complain. The book had initially belonged to a Creole woman who lived in New Orleans, at least, that's what Ashley deduced by reading the notes. The woman's name was Marvell, and she wrote notes in the margin in beautiful script. The notes described how the spells worked and how to improve upon them. The spells in the book looked more like recipes, and when Ashley was 13 she first tried one of the spells. It was designed to improve one's memory, and she decided to try it to see if it would help her pass her math tests in school. To Ashley's surprise, the spell worked beyond her wildest dreams. Her previous best test score had been a 79. She aced the test. The teacher was suspicious and accused Ashley of cheating. Ashley took a second test and again had a perfect score. The spell didn't just enhance her memory, but it allowed her to comprehend completely what she studied. It definitely made school much easier. After that, Ashley tried a few other simple spells. She then found a revenge spell that she was tempted to cast on her father. It wouldn't kill him or anything like that, but it would cause him great embarrassment. It was the notes in the margin that made Ashley change her mind. Marvell warned of the dangers of seeking revenge and how they could drive the person casting them into madness. So Ashley had to appease her feelings for revenge by just thinking of ways to get back at him for hurting them. Ashley never told anyone of her skills, and instead she practiced her powers in secret. She wasn't sure how others would react. She debated casting a spell on Tommy, but remembering Marvell's warnings, decided to confront him instead. If that didn't work, she could always find something in her book to do to him. Chapter 3 will be back sometime Monday, said Olivia. Here's the number of the hotel we'll be staying at, and here's the number of our neighbors. Call if you have any problems. Olivia and Ethan were going to Atlantic City for a long weekend. It was their long-delayed honeymoon. Neither liked to be away from their practice any longer than a few days. However, their friends, and even their clients, told them that they needed to get away. The main holdup was the fact that their two children didn't get along. Olivia was worried about leaving them alone. "We'll be fine, Mom," said Ashley. "Don't worry," added Tommy. Olivia looked at the two teens. She knew it must be difficult for both of them to be suddenly thrust together. She just hoped that nothing would go wrong while she and Ethan were away. "Come on, honey, they'll be fine," said Ethan. He had told Olivia that it would take time, but eventually the kids would become friends. He figured it would take time, and maybe if the teens had some time alone they would bond. Tommy and Ashley watched as their parents backed out of their driveway. They immediately split to go to their own rooms. Ashley decided to wait until after lunch before confronting her stepbrother. Tommy was sitting at his computer in his bedroom when Ashley entered the room. "We need to talk," she announced bluntly. Tommy turned around. He had a nervous look on his face. "About what?" Ashley walked over and sat down on the edge of his bed. "I'm not going to beat around the bush. You've been going into my room, and I want to know why." Tommy reached up and wiped his blonde hair out of his eyes. He had shoulder-length hair, and it was usually hanging around his face. "Before you lie to me, I know you've been in my room. I know you've been going through my stuff." "What are you doing, playing with yourself as you smell my stuff?" asked Ashley. Her tone was very sarcastic. From the look on his face, Ashley could tell that Tommy was terrified. "Okay, I'm sorry. I went into your room," confessed Tommy. His head dropped down. "Why?" demanded Ashley. "I can't tell you," he replied in a very soft voice. Ashley could barely hear him. "You tell me, or I'll tell my mom and your dad," stated Ashley angrily. Tommy looked up, and it looked like he was about to cry. Please, please, promise me that if I tell you, you won't tell anyone else. I promise that I'll never go in your room again. Ashley suddenly felt a slight feeling of compassion for her stepbrother, and she wasn't sure why. She could tell that he was terrified. He was actually trembling from fear. Why? What have you been doing in my room? She asked. Her tone softened slightly. Please, please, promise you won't tell anyone, it'll ruin me. Okay, calm down. I promise I won't tell anyone else. Just tell me what you've been doing? Asked Ashley. Tommy took a deep breath. I've been wearing your clothes. Ashley sat back in shock. She was stunned by Tommy's confession. You're kidding, right? Tommy shook his head. I can't help myself. I get these feelings that are, well, they're overpowering. I can't help myself. He wiped a tear away from his cheek. And when you dressed in my stuff, did you play with yourself? Tommy vigorously shook his head. No, it's nothing like that. It's weird, but as soon as I changed into your clothes, I felt at ease, a sense of peace. It doesn't make sense. Ashley began to smile, and then she started to laugh. Tommy stared back in pure horror, as if he just realized that his life was over. You promised, he replied. He lowered his face into his hands and began to sob. Oh, Tommy, I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at myself. What? What do you mean? He asked as he looked up. A look of total confusion was on his face. When you were staring at me, you weren't looking at my body, you were looking at my clothes, right? Asked Ashley. Tommy nodded sheepishly as he wiped away his tears. I thought you were lusting after me, and the whole time you were studying the way I dressed, right? Tommy nodded again. So, do you want to be a girl? She asked. Her tone had changed to comforting. Tommy nodded. Yes, I want to be a girl. Please, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Ashley smiled and reached over and took his hands into hers. Forgive you? Tommy, or should I say Tammy, this is the first thing about you that I like. I thought you were a little pervert lusting after me, and it turns out that you just want to be my sister. Tommy was confused by Ashley's reaction. So, you don't mind? Mind? No, not now. This is perfect. I don't want a brother, but a sister, now that's something totally different. Do you really want to be my sister? Asked Ashley. Tommy nodded. Okay, this is going to be so much fun. Come with me, Tammy, it's time to give my little sister a makeover, said Ashley. A big smile was on her face. She stood up and led Tammy out of the bedroom. Okay, first let's get you into something more appropriate, and then I'll do something with your hair and makeup, said Ashley. This is going to be so much fun. Chapter 4. Ashley led Tammy into her room. She reached into her dresser and pulled out a pair of panties and a matching bra. Go into the bathroom and put these on, said Ashley. Oh, wait, here's a new pair of pantyhose, put these on too. Do you know how? Tammy nodded and obeyed without a word. She was still in shock over what was happening. Ashley went into her closet and pulled out a short-sleeve yellow blouse and a matching tan skirt. There would look good on Tammy. Ashley was overcome with joy over the fact that she now had a sister to dress up. Her anger had turned to pure bliss. Tammy returned and already Ashley could see how feminine her sister looked. She was amazed that she had never made the connection before. Okay, put these on, she stated as she pointed to the skirt and blouse. Tammy did as she was told. Ashley was impressed that Tammy put the skirt on correctly. Your mom died when you were 12, right? Asked Ashley. Tammy nodded as she slipped on the blouse. She was killed in a car crash. Her car spun out on some black ice, and she hit a big tree. Dad said she died instantly. Ashley stared back, not knowing the best words to use. Did you ever dress in her clothes? It's okay to admit this? Tammy nodded again. Well, it's okay now. Oh, we need to put something in your bra, said Ashley. She opened a drawer and pulled out a couple of pairs of stockings. These will have to do for now. She walked over and carefully stuffed them into Tammy's bra. Tammy smiled slightly and then nervously buttoned the blouse. Okay, sit down here, said Ashley, pointing to the chair in front of her makeup table. Now, have you ever used makeup? Tammy shook her head vigorously. No, I only wore clothes. It's okay, Tammy, I believe you. Well, this will be your first lesson. I'll do it this time, and the next time I'll start teaching you. For now, just sit back and relax. She brushed Tammy's hair back and used a scrunchie to tie it into a ponytail. It instantly made Tammy look feminine. Next she began to apply makeup. If you don't mind me asking, how often do you shave? Your face, I mean, asked Ashley. Once every week or so, sometimes longer, Tammy replied. Even what hair does come in is very light. Don't complain, it'll make things a lot easier for you, said Ashley as she applied foundation. I also noticed that you have little hair on your legs. That's good as the pantyhose hide it. Over the next 20 minutes, she made up her new sister. She was quite pleased with the outcome as Tammy looked very feminine. I'm glad to see that you have pierced ears, said Ashley. Actually, I'm sort of surprised that you have pierced ears. How did that happen? Dad wasn't happy when I did it, but it was a team thing, she said. Team thing? Asked Ashley. I play soccer, and the entire team got our ears pierced by the cheerleaders before the playoffs last year, she said. You play sports? Sorry, but you don't look very athletic. Ashley was slightly embarrassed by the fact that she knew so little about her sibling. I know, but it helps to play sports so that others don't think you're different, if you know what I mean, replied Tammy. Oh, I suppose that makes sense. So are you gay? I'm sorry, that's rather private, asked Ashley. It's okay. To be honest, I don't know. I like girls, but there are times when I see a guy and feel something, she replied. I don't know exactly what it is, or how to describe the feeling, but there's something there. Are you a girl when you think about boys? Asked Ashley. Tammy nodded. How did you know? My old school had a really good sex education course, and we learned about transgendered people and sexuality. Just so you know, it's common to be confused when it comes to your sexuality, said Ashley. Thanks, replied Tammy. She then smiled. You know, this is the most we've talked since you moved in. I know, replied Ashley. But like I said, you weren't interesting to me before. I have to admit that I like you more now too. Before, you always seemed a little stuck up, replied Tammy. Really? Asked Ashley. She was shocked by Tammy's answer. Yes, replied Tammy. I guess we were both wrong. Ashley nodded. Okay, let's finish your look. She had Tammy put on a necklace, and she picked out a pair of gold hoop earrings. Additionally, she loaned her sister a watch, several rings, and a couple of bracelets. Now, let's see if you can also fit into my shoes, said Ashley, picking out a pair of pumps. These are one of my favorites. They'll look good with your outfit. Tammy slipped on the shoes and stood before the full-length mirror. She turned to the side and studied herself in the mirror. They fit, replied Tammy. A sly grin formed on her face. Ashley laughed. Of course. Well, once you get a wardrobe, then I'm going to borrow from you. Ashley was amazed by the change in Tammy's demeanor. You act very feminine, she commented. How do you feel? Tammy turned and smiled. I've never felt happier. You look great. So you want to go out? Tammy stared back. You've got to be kidding? Ashley shook her head. No, trust me, little sister, no one will think you're a boy. We can go down to the Montgomeryville Mall. That's far enough away from here that we shouldn't run into anyone you know. They have some nice shops there. I don't mind sharing with you, but you'll need your own stuff. I can't believe this is happening, said Tammy. It's like a dream. So is that a yes? Asked Ashley. Tammy nodded. Good. Let me get you a purse and we'll take off. Chapter 5. Ashley noticed that it took Tammy a few minutes to loosen up after they left the house. Relax. If anyone sees us, I'll just tell them that you're an old friend from Philly, said Ashley. Okay, replied Tammy softly. Inside, she was both thrilled and terrified that she was going out as a girl. You look very good, said Ashley. I think it's wonderful that you trust me to take you out to the mall. Is this your first time out in Femme? Tammy nodded. I've thought about it many times. Well, we'll take it easy. When you've had enough, we'll leave. Thanks, Ashley. Thanks for everything. Ashley smiled. You're welcome. So, have you always had these feelings of wanting to be a girl? Tammy nodded. As far back as I can remember. I tried to hold them in. Tammy's voice tailed off. You okay? Asked Ashley. Yes. It's just that I blamed myself for my mom dying. I thought I was being punished for wanting to be a girl. How awful. Look, just so you know, from what I've read, this isn't something you can control. You're born like this. I've read stuff like that online, replied Tammy. So, do you use the net a lot for finding out about your feelings? Yes. I'm very careful to erase my history online. Thankfully, Dad's not really into computers, replied Tammy with a laugh. What sort of sites do you go to? Informational ones, and also some fiction sites. I found a few that have really cool stories about transformation, replied Tammy. Transformation? You mean like we just did or from surgery? Asked Ashley. Yes, and others. Some of the sites have magical stories. I know it's silly, but they're fun to read, replied Tammy. When we get back to the house, why don't you show me? I like magic too, she replied. Cool, that would be fun, said Tammy. Ashley thought about what Tammy had just said. Tammy had been brave enough to share her deepest secret with her. Maybe she could do the same, thought Ashley. Chapter 6. They arrived at the large mall and parked near J.C. Penney's. Before they got out of the car, Ashley turned to Tammy. We won't have to buy a lot of stuff for you today, but I want you to have your own underwear and makeup, explained Ashley. You can keep your girl stuff in my room, no one will notice that way. I have a few extra drawers in my dresser that you can use. Okay, replied Tammy. Thank you. Also, from now on, ask before you borrow anything, continued Ashley. I will, I promise. Cool, now let's go shopping, said Ashley. Oh, I didn't bring any money. I totally forgot, exclaimed Tammy. Relax, this is my treat, said Ashley. Okay, but I've been meaning to ask you about that. You always seem to have money, but where does it come from? Asked Tammy. Magic, replied Ashley with a wink. This was actually the truth. Ashley once used a spell that allowed her to momentarily see the future. It was a very limited spell, as you had to know exactly what you were looking for. Ashley was able to see the numbers for the lotto. Unfortunately, she didn't see all the numbers. Still, she pleaded with her mom to play it that night. She told her mom that she had a hunch that she had the winning numbers. A $1 bet ended up paying back $50,000. Her mom made her put most away into her college fund, but she was allowed to keep some for shopping. Ashley knew that she could always use the spell again, should she need it. Tammy laughed at her sister's response. Since you're my size, shopping will be easy, said Ashley. Oh, I do know one thing we need to get you, a pair of boobs. What? Asked Tammy as she looked around in case someone overheard them talking. I mean a pair of silicone breast pads. They will give you more bounce and be better shaped than stockings, explained Ashley. To her surprise, Tammy was able to relax and enjoy the time they spent in the mall. Ashley bought her sister makeup, several pairs of panties, a couple of bras, breast pads, and a nightie. They even stopped at Starbucks and bought some coffees. As for Ashley, it was a dream come true for her. She had always hated being an only child and had wished that she had a sister. Now that dream had come true. On the way back home, they talked about the shopping trip. "The next time we'll buy you some outfits. You have a different color scheme than I do, and I want my sister to look as stylish as I do," said Ashley. "I could never do that, you're beautiful," said Tammy. "You're not so bad yourself. In case you didn't notice, you had some boys checking you out back at Starbucks," said Ashley. "I thought they were looking at you," said Tammy. She was feeling a little embarrassed. "Nope, I heard one say how much he liked the cute blonde," stated Ashley. "No way." "Way," replied Ashley. "So maybe someday we can go out on a double date. How would you like that?" "You mean that?" Ashley looked over and smiled as she nodded. "Before you say it, I happen to know that there are boys who like girls like you." "I don't know if I'm ready for that," said Tammy. Ashley laughed. "Oh, like I'm talking about tomorrow night." Tammy began to join her sister in laughing. Okay, you got me. "No, we won't go out on a date until next week at the earliest." Chapter 7. After dinner, the sisters sat in the family room watching TV. "I had a great time today, thank you, Ashley," said Tammy, who was wearing her nightie and a robe she had borrowed from her sister. "Hey, it was fun for me too," replied Ashley. She then excused herself and went to her room and retrieved the book. "You know when I told that I used magic to get my money, well, I wasn't kidding," said Ashley. Tammy looked at her sister and could see from the look in her eyes that she was telling the truth. "How? Are you a witch or something like that?" "I'm not a witch, I don't know what I am, maybe a sorceress. I found this old book, and I discovered that I can make the spells in it work," replied Ashley. She half expected Tammy to call her out and start laughing, but instead Tammy seemed to believe her. "Have you told anyone else about this?" asked Tammy. Ashley shook her head. "No, I was afraid of how they would react." "I know all about that," said Tammy. "I guess you would. Anyway, I figured that I could trust you," continued Ashley. "So, what can you do?" Ashley listed a few spells that she had tried. Tammy's eyebrows rose when Ashley mentioned that she could levitate. "You can fly?" asked Tammy. Ashley shook her head. "Float is more accurate, actually. I like the word levitate." "That's so cool," replied Tammy. Ashley cocked her head. "You want to try it?" "You mean it?" asked Tammy excitedly. "Sure, it's a pretty easy spell. I can whip it up in just a few minutes," said Ashley. A short time later, Ashley was monitoring the fluid cooking in a small copper pot on the stove. "Everything in the book is natural herbs, seasonings, pollens, things like that," explained Ashley. "The trick is getting them in the exact proportions." "So, how does this spell work?" asked Tammy. "You drink it, and it gives you the ability to levitate. The highest I ever got was 30 feet. You control it by thinking your way up or down. It's pretty easy." "How long does the spell last?" "This one lasts for 3 hours. The trick is not to be caught somewhere where you might get stuck." "Are you going to take it too?" asked Tammy. Ashley nodded. "I have just the place where we can go to." The nice thing about her new home was that the closest neighbors were a half-mile away. "We let it cool 20 minutes, then we drink it." "You're going to love this," explained Ashley. "Since we're going outside, we'd better change into something more practical." The two sisters went upstairs and changed back into regular clothes. Chapter 8. "Okay, it tastes better than it smells," said Ashley as she poured the reddish liquid into 2 glasses. She handed 1 glass to Tammy. "Cheers." The sisters drank the fluid. You're right, it didn't taste that bad, said Tammy. So, when it does start to work, we go outside, so we don't bump into the ceiling. We'll go up to the top of the house. The view up there is really cool, said Ashley. You mean you've been up there? Ashley nodded. I went there to get away from you, she replied with a wink. The sisters went outside into the warm summer evening. Lightning bugs flashed on and off around them. There was a half moon out that night, and it would give just enough light to see. Okay, why don't you hold my hand, as this is your first flight, said Ashley. Tammy extended her hand to her sister. Okay, now see the top of the house? Just concentrate on it. Don't worry about taking off too fast. There only seems to be one speed with this spell, explained Ashley. Tammy nodded, and she stared at the top of the 3-story house. A second later, she felt herself lifting off the ground slowly. Oh my God, this is so cool! They gently floated up to the top of the roof. Once at the top, they sat down on the crest. Look out there, said Ashley. They could see out across the trees of their rural neighborhood. This is so cool. Thank you for sharing this with me, replied Tammy. It's more fun this way, said Ashley. They watched as an owl flew by. Whoa, did you see that bird? Asked Ashley. Yes, it was a barn owl, replied Tammy. How did you know? Asked Ashley. I grew up out here. Dad taught me all about the birds and animals that live out here. Look over there, by the trees, see the deer? Ashley nodded. Wow. Okay, can you teach me about the local animals? Sure, it'll be a fair trade-off. They watched as the deer made their way along the tree edge of the woods. Tammy, if it was possible, would you like to be a real girl? I don't mean having a sex change, but become a complete biological female? I'd love it, replied Tammy. There's a spell in the book for changing gender, said Ashley. Tammy looked at her sister. Really? Yes, and I can get everything that is needed right around here, replied Ashley. That would be incredible, but how would we explain it? It's part of the spell, said Ashley. The woman who owned the book wrote many notes about the spells. Her name was Marvell, and the best I can determine is that she lived in New Orleans in the early 1800s. She stated that not only does the spell change the gender of the person, but it changes their identity. Only the person who casts the spell and the person being changed will remember their previous identity. Tammy stared back in disbelief. It is strictly a voluntary spell. It can't be used on someone without consent. It's not designed to be punishment. Marvell wrote that it was used to change both men and women who were unhappy in their bodies. Tammy looked out into the dark. You don't have to make up your mind right now. However, when you're ready, let me know, continued Ashley. She then noticed that his sister was crying. You okay? Tammy wiped her eyes. I'm crying because I'm so happy. So does that mean you want to try the spell? I can reverse it if you change your mind. Really? Asked Tammy. Yes, but only in the first 48 hours of it being cast, said Ashley. Let's do it, said Tammy. You sure? I mean, you don't have to make up your mind right now, said Ashley. Ashley, I've been fighting these feelings my whole life. I want to be whole, she replied. Okay, I'll get the ingredients tomorrow, and I should have it ready by tomorrow evening, said Ashley. The spell works while you're asleep. Thank you. Ashley smiled. Okay, let's float on down. Tomorrow is going to be a busy day. On the way down, Ashley showed Tammy how they could go out horizontally, and they floated across the yard together. Thank you for one of the best days of my life, Ashley. You're welcome, little sister. Chapter 9. Tammy woke up the next morning feeling reborn. The weight of her secret was lifted, and if Ashley was as good with the transformation spell as she was with the levitation spell, then by tomorrow at this time she would truly be a girl. It was like a dream come true. When she went into the bathroom, there was a note from Ashley telling her to shave her legs and underarms. After showering, she put on her bra, panties, shorts, and a t-shirt. She went downstairs to find that Ashley was already up. She was writing down ingredients for the spell on a notepad. "Good morning, have you had breakfast yet?" asked Tammy. Ashley shook her head. "Well, how about pancakes?" Ashley looked up from her work with a surprised look on her face. "You know how to cook?" Tammy nodded. "After Mom died, it was a necessity. Dad was often out on some emergency, especially in the spring when all the new farm animals were being born." "That's funny, because I learned to cook because of a similar reason. Mom was often out, and I got tired of nuked food," she replied. "Well, we have another thing in common," stated Tammy as she began to get the ingredients out to make the pancakes. "Speaking of cooking, I think we have most of the necessary ingredients for the transformation spell. Thankfully, we have a pretty well-stocked pantry of spices. I will need a few things. Is there a good nursery nearby?" "There are several," replied Tammy. "Good, I need some seeds and some leaves," stated Ashley. Just out of curiosity, how does this spell work? I mean, do I drink it like the levitation one?" asked Tammy as she mixed the ingredients for the pancakes. "No, this one is even easier. It's a bath. You'll soak in it for an hour before you go to bed tonight." "That's it." Tammy nodded. "Are you sure it'll work?" Ashley nodded. "It's a pretty simple spell. The levitation one is actually more complex." "Oh, okay. I'm just a little nervous," replied Tammy. "Only a little nervous?" asked Ashley with a smile. "Okay, I'm just worried about what will happen if something goes wrong." "That's pretty normal. But I've never had a problem with any of the spells before. Do you want to go out shopping with me, or do you want to stay here?" "I'll go with you," replied Tammy. "Cool. After breakfast, I'll help you get dressed. I have an outfit that will look absolutely darling on you." Tammy laughed. "Okay, can you clear the table? I'm about to start making the pancakes." Chapter 10. Will I know how to put on makeup after the change? asked Tammy as she nervously applied some eyeshadow. "You should. The spell doesn't change your age or anything like that. From what I've read, it'll be as if you were born a girl," said Ashley as she supervised Tammy's makeup techniques. "By the way, if you look half as good as your mom, you're going to be stunning." Tammy turned and smiled. "Thank you, that's very nice." "Do you miss her?" asked Ashley. "Yes, I do. Don't get me wrong, your mom is very nice, and I like her a lot, but..." Ashley put up her hand. "You don't have to say it, I understand. I guess in some ways I had it easier. I never really knew my birth father. Do you know where he is?" Ashley nodded. "Yes, he's living in Tampa with his new family." Tammy noted the bitterness in Ashley's tone. "I'm sorry." "It's okay. I once was going to cast a spell on him. There's one in the book that makes a man, well, unable to function, if you know what I mean, but Marvell warned against using the revenge spells. She noted that they can only lead to trouble. That's what saved you." Tammy turned and looked at Ashley. "You mean that?" "Yes. I was really pissed when I realized it was you going in my room. But I decided to talk to you first. If you don't mind my asking, how could you tell that I took things? I mean, your room isn't exactly orderly." Ashley smirked. "Touch. I guess I was looking for you to do something wrong. But that's all in the past now." "I'm glad," relied Tammy. "Okay, since tomorrow at this time you'll be all girl, I'm going to do something with your hair. I'm going to give you some bangs. It'll make you look a lot more feminine." "Okay," replied Tammy tentatively. "Trust me, little sister." A few minutes later, Tammy was staring at her reflection. Ashley was right, it made all the difference in the world. "Okay, here's the dress I want you to wear." It's a very feminine sundress, and it will look great on you, said Ashley. Oh, and I want to do your nails too before we go out. Have you ever had nail polish on before? No, replied Tammy. Well, it's long overdue then, said Ashley. As she applied light pink polish to her sister's nails, Tammy watched with fascination. I've always wanted this to happen, said Tammy. Well, after the change, I'll take you to a salon, and we'll get it done by a professional. I was dreading high school this fall, but now it's going to be so much fun. We're going to turn some heads, said Ashley. I have a question about the book, said Ashley. The book is in English, right? Ashley nodded. But what about the notes by this woman, Marvell? I would have thought she would have written in French. I can read French, can't speak it worth a damn, but I can read it anyway, she wrote in English. I think she may have done it because that way she could always deny it was her book. I don't know a lot about her, but from what little I've been able to determine, she was a very independent thinking woman. She wrote notes about how she would use spells to help others. I've tried doing online searches for information about her, but so far no luck, said Ashley. Okay, just let the polish dry. Do all the spells require physical contact to work? Asked Tammy. Yes, replied Ashley. So when you thought about getting back at your birth father, how would you have done that? I hadn't really thought that all out. I was only 13 when I thought about it. I was still angry at him for abandoning my mom and I, said Ashley. It's a good thing that you take your time before doing things. Oh, just out of curiosity, what was the spell that you thought about using on me? Ashley starting laughing. What's so funny? I was going to give you breasts, answered Ashley. Little did I know that instead of punishing you, it would have made you happy. I'm not sure how happy I would have been. It would have been hard to explain how a teenage boy suddenly grew breasts. True, and they would have been big ones too, added Ashley with a grin. How big? Ashley held out her hands from Moan's chest to demonstrate. Yikes, replied Tammy. Don't worry, I will never use the book when I'm angry, said Ashley. But after your change, let me know if you want bigger boobs. The two sisters began to giggle and then laugh. Just then the phone rang. Ashley answered it. Hi, Mom. You having a good time? Yes, dear. I was just seeing if everything is fine between you and Tommy, said Olivia. It's great, replied Ashley. We even went to the mall together. You did what? Asked Olivia. She was stunned, as Ashley and Tommy had done nothing together on their own. Is everything okay? Relax, Mom. Like you said, if I took the time to talk to him, I'd find that he's not that bad. She then stuck her tongue out at Tammy, who started giggling again. Okay, dear, replied Olivia. I must say that I'm a little surprised. Look, don't worry about us, Mom, we'll be fine. You and Dad have a great time, said Ashley. Okay, dear, love you, said Olivia. Bye, Mom, love you too, said Ashley, as she hung up the phone. Maybe I should have told her that I just did your nails. If you did, I would have told her that you're a witch, replied Tammy. Sorceress, not witch, get it right, little sister, replied Ashley. They both started laughing uncontrollably. Chapter 11. I also need to go to a natural food store. I found one listed in Doylestown, said Ashley as they drove away from their home. What do you need there? Asked Tammy. Lavender oil, virgin olive oil, and some other things, replied Ashley. I have a complete list in my purse. This sounds like it's going to be a very interesting bath, said Tammy nervously. You know, you don't have to do this right now. There's no rush, said Ashley. Tammy turned and looked at Ashley. Yes, there is. I want to feel whole. I'm so sick of these conflicts. I also want to have at least 1 year of high school as a girl. I figure if I change now, then I'll have plenty of time to get used to being the new me before our senior year. Okay, but I don't want you to feel that I'm pushing up into something you don't want to do. You're not, replied Tammy firmly. Ashley nodded. Okay, now since we're going to be sisters, I suppose we should find out more about each other. Tell me what you like to do. I actually do like sports. True, part of the reason I go out is so no one suspects the truth about me, but I do enjoy sports. I just wish I was better. I play soccer because I like it, even though I mostly sit the bench during games. Do you think that I'll still be able to play sports once I'm a girl? Sure, I can't imagine why not. I assume our school has lots of sports for girls. Yes, Penridge even has a girls' soccer team. Okay, what else? Asked Ashley. I love animals. Not enough to be a vet like Dad, but I love riding horses. You know how to ride? I've always wanted to do that, stated Ashley. Really? I'm sort of surprised, replied Tammy. Sorry, that didn't come out right. I know, I'm a bit of a city girl, but I've always wanted to ride. Well, I'm sure that Dad would love to take us. One of his clients has a horse farm, and they've always allowed us to ride there. My mom taught me how to ride back when I was 10. Cool, said Ashley. So you aren't planning on being a vet? Do you know what you want to do? I just don't like to deal with the nasty part of the job, you know, dead and sick animals and stuff like that. I love science, and I'm thinking of becoming a doctor, replied Tammy. Wait a second, you don't like dead or sick animals, but you want to be a doctor? Geez, you're really a blonde, said Ashley with a laugh. I know it's silly, but I can deal with sick people. Sick animals make me sad, she said. I can deal with sick people better. I guess that makes sense. Okay, here's another question. If you like animals so much, why don't you have any pets? Asked Ashley. We had a dog, but it died a year ago. Dad wanted to wait to see how you two liked animals before getting another one, she said. We both love dogs. We never could have one because of living in a condo. Cool, so we can ask for one when they get back. One of Dad's clients has a black lab that is due to have puppies next month. Oh, I love labs, replied Ashley. See, we have another thing in common. Okay, so tell me about yourself, asked Tammy. Well, I know this may be hard to believe, but I also love science classes, although I'd rather go into research. I love playing around in the lab, maybe that's why I'm so good at using the spells in the book. I mean, science is a sort of magic, replied Ashley. Tammy laughed. I never thought of it that way, but it makes sense. They continued to trade information about themselves until they reached the market. Now, in addition to the ingredients for the spell, I'm going to buy some stuff for dinner. I have a great recipe for vegetable soup. I wanted to tell you this so you wouldn't be worried. I'm not going to be putting onions and carrots in your bath, said Ashley. No problem, but thanks for warning me, she replied with a laugh. I really don't want to be in the soup. Chapter 12. After the farmer's market, they drove into Doylestown and decided to eat lunch before heading over to the natural foods shop. They picked a small bistro called Horton's after reading the menu that was posted in the window. The inside of the restaurant had paintings by local artists on the walls. The decor was modern, light, and airy. The two girls were led to a booth. Their waitress's name was Brenda, and she was a very pretty blonde. She had very classic features, and the girls wondered if Brenda was a model. Ashley ordered an avocado salad and a bowl of Cuban black bean soup. Tammy decided on a club sandwich. They both had raspberry lemonade to drink. After Brenda left, the two girls commented what a lovely French accent she had. I wonder what she's doing here, asked Tammy. Probably going to college and working here for the summer, said Ashley. She then leaned over and whispered to Tammy. Oh, by the way, I'm amazed at how relaxed you are. I can't believe that this is just your second time out. I know, it's strange, but I feel very much at ease, Tammy replied softly. I guess I know it's because I'm going to be a real girl tomorrow. A woman walked over towards their table and introduced herself as Marcy Horton, the manager of the restaurant. I just wanted to see if you two were enjoying your meal, said Marcy. It's wonderful. I really love the soup, said Ashley. My husband will be pleased to hear that. He's the head chef, said Marcy. Personally, I think he makes it too spicy for my taste. Oh, I like it spicy. Also, our waitress was excellent, continued Ashley. She was telling the truth, and she figured why not help Brenda. Marcy smiled. I would expect nothing less from her. She's our daughter. Brenda's down for the summer from college. Wow, this is really a family business, commented Ashley. It is now, replied Marcy as she looked lovingly at Brenda, who was taking the order of a couple at another table. We'll definitely come back, said Tammy. Everything looks so good. Thank you, replied Marcy. Oh, would you like a copy of our menu? We'd love it, answered Ashley. The next time we'll bring Mom and Dad, said Tammy. She then looked at the two girls. Are you sisters? Before Tammy could respond, Ashley replied, Yes, we're sisters. Well, thank you again, said Marcy as she walked over to the next table. The two girls finished their meal and prepared to leave. Ashley looked over at Tammy and whispered to her, Oh, before we leave, you need to reapply your lipstick. Thanks. Oh, by the way, thank you for what you said to Marcy, replied Tammy, as she reached into her purse for her lipstick and mirror. Hey, no problem, we are sisters now, said Ashley. She then pointed to the lipstick. Here's another lesson, you don't do that here. Tammy looked confused. Okay, where do we do it? Ashley motioned towards the ladies' room with her eyes. You have to go in one eventually. Tammy suddenly looked very nervous. I'm not sure that's a good idea. Just follow my lead, said Ashley, as she stood up. Just follow me, little sister. To Tammy's relief, there was no one else in the restroom. Go on, try it yourself. If it looks bad, I'll do it for you, said Ashley. Tammy leaned towards the mirror and cautiously reapplied her lipstick. She then turned to Ashley, who nodded her approval. Good job, little sister, she said. Now, let's go shopping. After lunch, the two girls found the health food shop, and Ashley was able to complete her shopping list. Okay, we still have some time before we need to head home. Let's check out some of the shops here, said Ashley. Chapter 13 Well, at least I now know that there's some good shopping close by, said Ashley, as they drove home. When Mom told me where we were moving, I was expecting the only store to be a general store. Hey, we're very sophisticated out here. We even require everyone to wear shoes to school, replied Tammy with a laugh. They had made one detour to stop at a bakery Tammy recommended. It was located in a small strip mall. It was worth going inside just to smell the aroma of the freshly baked bread. Doylestown was nice. We'll have to go back after your change, said Ashley as they walked back to the car. Oh, wait until we go to Lahaska and New Hope. They have some great shops there too, added Tammy. How do you know? Asked Ashley with a smile. My mom loved to go there, but Dad hated it. Shopping isn't one of his favorite things to do, replied Tammy. It must have been hard for you to try to hide your feelings from them, said Ashley. It was. My main regret with my mom is that I never had the chance to tell her the truth about me, said Tammy sadly. I can understand that, said Ashley. So what happens now? Asked Tammy. I'll make the soup first. As it cooks, I'll do the spell. It has to simmer for 3 hours, and then it has to sit for an additional hour before you add it to your bath. How long do I have to soak in the stuff? An hour, said Ashley. It'll make you very relaxed, and I'll help you to bed. Then tomorrow you'll be Tammy for real. It's so amazing, replied Tammy. I don't know how I can ever repay you. I'm just happy that I'm getting a sister out of this, said Ashley. Chapter 14. The house was filled with the aromas of both the soup and the spell. Combined, they were quite pleasant. Tammy was very quiet during dinner. "You okay? Is the soup all right?" asked Ashley. "Oh, it's delicious. I guess I'm just lost in thoughts over what's about to happen to me," she said. "Regrets?" asked Ashley as she spread some butter on a piece of the fresh French bread. "Only that it hasn't already happened," replied Tammy. "These past 2 days have been the happiest I've had in a long time." "I'll have to admit that I'm enjoying myself too," said Ashley. She tried the bread. It was delicious. "I do feel some guilt about not telling Dad before this happens, but I'm not sure how he'd react. He's pretty liberal about things. His receptionist is a lesbian, but I am his son." "Look, he loves you, right?" asked Ashley. Tammy nodded. "And he wants you to be happy, right?" "That's right," replied Tammy. "Then, I'm sure he'd give his blessing. Look, even if you did talk to him before the spell was cast, he wouldn't remember anyway. You and I will be the only ones who will ever know you were a boy. There will be no physical proof that Tommy existed. Everything from your birth certificate to photos will change," said Ashley. "How do you know?" "I mean, the book was written long before there were photographs, and let's face it, changing an identity back then was a lot easier," said Tammy. Ashley took a deep breath. She then reached over and took Tammy's hands in hers. "I know that the spell works, little sister, because I used it on myself 2 years ago," confessed Ashley. Chapter 15. What? asked Tammy. She had a stunned look on her face. "I was once a boy, and like you, I hated it. Mom knew about it and tolerated it. I found the spell in the book and, after 2 attempts, got it to work. The first 2 times nothing happened, and all I did was make a mess in the bathtub. The 3rd attempt was successful, and I've been Ashley ever since. Everything changed. All my family and friends acted as if I'd always been a girl. All my identification changed too. I've never been happier." "Were you going to tell me this?" asked Tammy. "I almost did it last night and again this afternoon." "So, you were once a boy?" "I find that hard to believe. I mean, you're so feminine," said Tammy. "I was a wimp in school. I was also rather particular about the way I dressed and my grooming. Actually, I'm not that different than I was back then. Well, no, that's not true. I'm much more confident today. My grades in school improved, and I became more social. I know that it was the right thing to do," said Ashley. "I did use a memory spell, but that was just a tool. My whole attitude towards school changed. I no longer hated going to school. I guess it's because I no longer had something to hide." "What was your name, your boy name?" asked Tammy. "Andy," replied Ashley with a grimace on her face. "And your mom never noticed a difference?" "No, in some ways we became closer. Like I said, she knew that I dressed in girls' clothes. She was worried that others would find out and hurt me, so she made me promise that I'd never leave the house dressed. I guess I felt a tinge of envy yesterday and today when you got to go out dressed." "I always wanted to do that," explained Ashley. "You never went out? Not even one time?" Ashley shook her head vigorously. "We lived in a large building that had been converted into condos. It would have been impossible for me to get in or out dressed as a girl. Even though it was a nice building, if the boys in my neighborhood found out, I would have had the crap beat out me." "The same thing would have happened out here," said Tammy. "To top it off, I liked boys back then. I never did anything, which made it more and more difficult to hold in my feelings. I was terrified that I might do something stupid. I mean, I had a major crush on one of my classmates," said Ashley. "Really?" asked Tammy. "Yes. His name is Bob, and the funny thing is that we ended up dating after I changed." "Wow," said Tammy. How was it?" Ashley smiled. "It was great. We didn't have real sex or anything like that, but it felt wonderful kissing him." "Wow," replied Tammy. I can just say from my own experiences that I have no regrets about what I did. I was so unhappy being a boy. And I know that if I hadn't changed, it wouldn't have gotten better. The urges were getting stronger all the time, and I know eventually I would have done something stupid, continued Ashley. You know, I haven't even thought about being a boy since the change until this weekend. Thanks, Ashley. I really appreciate you telling me this, said Tammy. Ashley smiled back. It'll be a little confusing at first for you, but soon it will seem natural. I'll help you get through the rough spots. I mean, you're going to have to deal with your period, and trust me, that's going to be an eye-opening experience. Oh, I hadn't really thought about that, said Tammy. It'll seem normal after a few times. It's a little gross at first and hopefully you won't get PMS, continued Ashley. Something else to think about is birth control. Tammy nodded. I know you said that you and Bob didn't have sex, but are you a virgin? Ashley grinned. I lost it just before we moved out here. Mom had a long talk with me a few years ago, and she got me on the pill. I imagine that she'll talk to you too. Cool, replied Tammy. Then realizing what she said, her face turned red. That's not what I meant. Ashley laughed. Don't worry. I don't think you're a slut or anything like that, little sister. Tammy began to join her sister in laughing. Thanks. Chapter 16. A few hours later, Ashley carried the copper bowl with its contents upstairs to the bathroom that she shared with Tammy. She set the bowl on floor and began to fill the tub with water. She then began to pour the spell into tub. The strong aroma of the spell filled the bathroom. Tammy walked in wearing a robe and sat down on the edge of the tub. She watched in silence as her sister worked. Okay, it's ready, said Ashley. Do you want me to leave? No, it's okay, said Tammy, as she stood up and slipped out of her robe. She eased into tub. It's hot. I know, but it has to be, replied Ashley. Once you're all the way in, lower your head below the water. You need to get completely wet. Tammy nodded as she slowly slipped down into the tub. My skin tingles. Good, that means it's working, said Ashley. She looked at her watch. An hour, huh? Asked Tammy. Yes, now make sure you get your head totally wet. It won't work unless you get totally wet. Tammy repeatedly dunked her head below the waterline. She looked over at Ashley as she swept her hair back. It's strange, but the water is still really warm, she said. Good, that's another sign that it's working. The spell keeps the heat in, replied Ashley. Thank you again for doing this, said Tammy. You're welcome, replied Ashley. Now, the changes won't start until you fall asleep. I'll help you get into bed. I barely made it by myself. I am feeling really tired, answered Tammy as she yawned. That's another good sign. A short time later, Ashley helped Tammy to her bed. Sweet dreams, little sister, said Ashley, and she leaned down and kissed her sister on the forehead. Chapter 17. While Tammy slept soundly, Ashley kept vigil just outside Tammy's room, sitting in a chair that she had dragged into the hallway. Ashley was sure that everything would go well, but she just wanted to be close. If something had gone wrong when she transformed herself, then it would have been her own fault. However, Ashley knew that she couldn't live with herself if something went wrong with Tammy. Ashley opened the book and reviewed the spell again. The notes from Marvell were quite interesting. She wrote that once someone used the spell, they would find that others would seek them out to find peace. Ashley wondered if that was what happened between her and Tammy. She also wondered if she would be helping others. She decided that she could live with that. She shuddered, thinking about the turmoil she had suffered when she was a male. She then thought about the day she found the book. It was as if she had been drawn to the book. She was also still amazed that the bookstore sold it to her for such a low price. Maybe it was fate, she thought. A short time later, Ashley drifted off to sleep. Chapter 18. It was a little after 7 when Ashley carefully opened up Tammy's door. She peeked in and saw that Tammy was just waking up. "Good morning," said Ashley. Tammy smiled. "Good morning." She then gasped as she heard her new voice. "Oh my God! Is that really me?" Ashley nodded. "What about the other changes?" Tammy sat up and lifted up the covers. She reached down and broke out in a huge smile. She then jumped out of bed and ran over to hug Ashley. "It worked! It worked! Oh my God, it really worked!" Ashley hugged Tammy back. "Wait, let me check one more thing," stated Tammy excitedly. She reached for her purse and eagerly pulled out her wallet. "It worked! Look, I'm Tammy Carlton." She pulled out her driver's license and showed it to Ashley. Tammy was now an attractive athletic young woman. She was 5'8", with B-cup breasts. Her long blonde hair flowed down past her shoulders. "I can see that. Look around your room," said Ashley. Tammy then noticed how her room had changed. Her furniture was now slightly more feminine, and there was now a makeup table against one of the walls. She opened up her closet door and discovered that she now had a complete feminine wardrobe. She turned around and smiled back at Ashley. "Please tell me this isn't a dream. Do you want me to pinch you, or should I tickle you instead?" "Don't you dare," replied Tammy as she began to laugh. "Why? Are you ticklish?" asked Ashley as she approached Tammy. "Oh, no, please don't." Ashley rushed her sister and began to tickle her and soon had her in tears from laughing. "Please stop," cried Tammy. "You win." Ashley stopped and sat next to her sister on the bed. "Are you hungry?" asked Ashley. "Famished," replied Tammy. "Okay, why don't you get dressed? Then we'll go out for breakfast," said Ashley. "I think we should celebrate." "Okay, we have a good diner nearby," said Tammy. "I still can't believe that this is my new voice. I can't believe that this really happened." "It did, little sister," replied Ashley. "Why don't you take a shower? Take your time, explore your new body a little, and then we'll go to breakfast. Just be prepared for a feeling of being overwhelmed by the changes, but that will pass." Chapter 19. For Tammy, it was a very interesting experience. Her body seemed both new and old at the same time. There was a feeling similar to déjà vu. Even though she knew she had been male the day before, there was also a sense that she had been in this body her whole life. It was a little overwhelming at times, just as Ashley had said. She noticed that her body was similar in build to what she had been as a male. She also instinctively knew that she was also still an athlete. The difference was she was no longer a benchwarmer, she was a starter in both volleyball and soccer. That was cool. She loved sports. She went into her closet and found her school jacket. It had Tammy embroidered on the front, and there were her letters from soccer and volleyball. She instantly couldn't wait for school to start. Her memories seemed to be combining too. She also found that she could do things that she couldn't do before. Suddenly, putting on eyeliner didn't feel like she was about to poke herself in the eye. She instinctively pulled her hair back into a ponytail using a scrunchie. She wouldn't be as glamorous as her sister, but then again, she knew few girls in school would be. Tammy also liked the fact that she viewed Ashley as her sister, not her stepsister as she had when she was Tommy. Ashley put on a bra, panties, and picked out a white cotton sleeveless blouse and a short denim skirt. She picked out a pair of sandals too. Overall, she was very pleased with her appearance. She went downstairs and found that Ashley was waiting for her. Ashley was wearing a floral dress. "You look nice, as always, Ashley," said Tammy. "You look pretty good yourself, little sister," replied Ashley. "It's strange, but I can just do things without thinking. I mean, I had no problem putting on my makeup," said Tammy. "That's the way it was for me too," stated Ashley. They walked out of the house together and got into the car. Ashley drove, as she remembered how easily startled she had been the first few days after her own transformation. They didn't need an accident right now. Any regrets? Asked Ashley. Only that I didn't get caught taking your stuff sooner, replied Tammy. A big smile broke out on her face. I know this may sound corny, but I think we're going to be closer than if we had been born as sisters. I know what you mean, said Ashley. Tammy then broke out laughing. What's so funny? Asked Ashley. I was just thinking, you know how Mom and Dad were hoping that we'd become closer while they were away? I don't think that this is what they had in mind. Ashley joined her sister in laughing. True, but I bet they'll be happy that we're now close. Yep, we're sisters now, replied Tammy. Chapter 20. That year in school, their classmates were amazed at how close Ashley and Tammy were. Even though they ran in different circles at school, no one could badmouth the other. Both were considered among the most popular girls in their class. They even went to the prom together, dating twin brothers. Tammy excelled in both her schoolwork and her athletics. She was offered several athletic scholarships, but elected to take an academic scholarship to Penn State. Part of the reason she chose Penn State was that Ashley was also offered a scholarship there. Ashley planned to seek a program after graduation to study pharmacognosy, the study of finding naturally occurring drugs in plants and animals. She also planned to study the strange book that had changed her life so dramatically. For Tammy and Ashley, it was a wonderful last year of school before going to college. They were also the only two people who pulled off a series of pranks that baffled officials at every school they played in football that year. No one could figure out how a Penridge High School ball cap ended up on the top of the main flagpole before each game.